And we're live. Welcome back to the eSellerCafe News Roundup. I am your host, Dave, and as always, I'm joined by Mr. Richard Meldner. How are you doing, sir?
Good. How are you? I'm feeling a lot better than I did last week. Last week was just a real doozy of a week. You know, it's like I think I put on our little we write up a little outline that said, Richard was a bit ill and worn out from travel. Matt left Bristol, and Dave got married. And on that bombshell,
we all had a very
this before.
we all had a very busy week last week, and this feels kind of nice because this is the half-year anniversary episode of the News Roundup. So yeah, no, it was a busy week for me. Like, I had family arriving from all over the place from sort of Tuesday. Wednesday, Thursday, I was at the conference here in Manchester, eCommerce Show North, and Friday I was doing wedding stuff. And then you were ill, Richard, weren't you, for the best part of the week, probably after all the traveling come down.
Four weekends in a row, and it just finally it caught up with me. It's just sometimes, and people around me here are a little sick, so I just caught it, and it was just like, ugh. And it wasn't, at least a good thing, it wasn't bad, but it was to the point where I was exhausted, and I just wanted to sleep. I was like, and it was really hard to try to get motivated. But we will turn it around this week. That's what
we've all been there. We've all been there. It has to happen at some point. Happens to the best of us. So. And with that intro, we sound like the three guys from the Grand Tour.
Yeah, exactly.
Richard said the season 2 is coming soon, hopefully November.
Yeah, it's coming soon. But more importantly, it's 39 days until Black Friday and 69 days until Christmas.
We're getting incredibly close now. Yeah, for sure. We're halfway through October, and this is you should start seeing the ramp ups already. If you haven't seen it now, it's certainly coming soon. But yeah, 39 days until Black Friday. I was in a shopping centre Friday, and I could already see some of the Christmas decorations were definitely much more prevalent. But also there were some signs up in a couple of consumer electronics stores, sort of preempting the Black Friday deals week. I'm like, wow, you're a month out, and you're already trying to. You're almost trying to put sales off for a month. Don't tell people you're going to be putting prices down. Do that later.
Remember, anyway, smartphone season. We learned that from an eBay story.
Definitely.
And the funny thing is, my phone is barely keeping alive, and I have to buy a phone. And let me tell you, it's like the worst because I'm in the middle of this. Do I buy last year's technology or buy this year's technology? Am I willing to buy the up? Oh, it's hell. Anyways, these are our personal stories. We're going to
anyway,
rambling on. We do have a lightning round and some stories to talk about, despite the fact that we all had something different and better to do, I guess, in some ways. So, Matt is not here, but he left Bristol, so as I said, that's he was up there with you at the conference. We'll maybe have a few minutes at the end to talk about it, and possibly you have a chance to do a little write-up on it if you took some pictures or whatever.
I don't think I did, but I can definitely do a write-up on it. I was supposed to vlog it as well, but I just didn't. I started off doing, and I literally at the end of the day realized I just had an intro. I was like, well, that went well. So yeah, I will do a write-up though, for sure. I even did a talk there, which again, we'll talk more about that at the end.
Yeah, sounds good.
But yeah, so anyway, as always, for anyone who is new and hasn't joined us before, the way that these news roundups work is that myself and Richard, and occasionally Matt when he's with us, will do a lightning round of sort of a rundown of some of the news which happened last week, the sort of less important bits, the bits which we can give you a very high level sort of elevator pitch on, and then we move on. If any of these sound interesting to you and you want to find out more, the full links to the full blog post are down below. Just click the show more button underneath this video and you'll see all the links that we're about to talk about, as well as then the what do we call it, the discussion round, where we actually get a little bit more in depth into 2 or 3 of the big stories of the week, and try and get you involved. Like I say, if you can join us live, let us know in the comments, or down below if you're watching the recording, you can leave comments and we'll get back to you there as well. Now, with that said, we're going to kick off the lightning round, and it's actually quite a small one this week. Actually, it's like I said, the news was. Unless
I think the news is slowing down a bit too, because
the news is definitely slowing down.
Yeah,
for sure.
There's not as much stuff coming from the big guys, because no one's going to make major platform changes or major platform decisions at this point. So that's part of it too. So you'll see more magazine style stories from us, I think, over the next couple of months, where we kind of go more in depth on certain things versus just here's news.
Yeah, so, here's breaking stuff. Yeah, no. Yeah. So it's to be expected this time of year. It does happen every year. But with that said, we'll kick things off with Amazon pressure with Whole Foods competitive pricing. Now, for anyone who's been living under a rock for the past few months, Amazon acquired Whole Foods back on the 28th of August. And ever since then, obviously we talked about how Amazon have this incredible effect on industries which they're not even prevalent in. And grocery was a big one. They as soon as the news that Amazon acquired Whole Foods, share prices across the board of other grocery chains and other sort of food places dropped massively. And we are seeing that since that has happened, we've seen a bit of a shift in the Whole Foods customer base. Now, it's an interesting one. Let me just find a company called Thasos did this report. And food traffic has increased by 17% year by year since the implementation of lower prices on Whole Foods products. Now, again, Richard did an article on this pretty much the day after the acquisition went in, noticed a couple of price changes on a few staple things, but nothing major, Richard. That was right, wasn't it?
That's right. And now, this week, it's going to be follow-up time.
Yeah. Richard's going shopping again.
Richard's going shopping. Maybe with my new smartphone.
Yeah, exactly. But an interesting piece that Thasos found here was the customer shift. Like, whilst it seems that the customers are preferring the lower prices that Whole Foods is offering as opposed to its competitors. The hardest hit of the competitors is Trader Joe's, apparently with 10% of its customers now moving to Whole Foods. Sprouts lost 8% and Target lost 3%, whereas 24% of new customers to Whole Foods actually came from Walmart, which is interesting, because this was the interesting point here, is that coming from Trader Joe's, you'd sort of expect it. Again, it's more of a premium supermarket, and it's that sort of Whole Foods arena. Walmart was much more of a budget end sort of, open to everyone sort of supermarket, not an elite level supermarket. It's hard for me to give you proper references being in the UK, but if you are UK, it's sort of saying, comparing Marks and Spencer's to Aldi or Lidl. That's the sort of thing we're talking here. And what was said is, with Whole Foods reducing prices, we expected those people who shop at the Marks and Spencer's, the Trader Joe's, to start moving to Whole Foods. But what's actually happened is those who were shopping at Aldi and the lower end, the lower price point supermarkets, are now upgrading to Whole Foods because the prices are cheaper. So again, it's a very curious one. Not what people would have expected for sure. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, people are moving across the board. Like I said, Sprouts, Whole Foods, Sprouts, Trader Joe's, Target, Walmart, Kroger have all seen customers move to Whole Foods. But it's unusual that more people seem to have moved up rather than have moved down, if that makes sense.
And that might be because the economy is pretty good right now. So,
yeah.
So that helps. And, I mean, like, there's a lot of people like me that just absolutely despise walking into a Walmart, and so that might be part of it too. Let's see how well that sticks over the long term. I think there was a lot of curiosity factor here, so that's my opinion. We'll
absolutely 100% agree. There's definitely a bit of a novelty factor with people wanting to see, has the Amazon disruption come to Whole Foods yet? The true test will be the stickiness of the audience, so we'll keep an eye on that for sure. Next up is Rob Trell famously from eBay UK, came in and asked sellers to email him, has come out recently and said that he sees Brexit as an incredible opportunity. Now, again, if you're not in the UK, Brexit probably is again a very old term to you guys. You've probably forgotten about it, as I wish. So had we. But unfortunately, people just like to keep bringing it up. And again, Rob Petrell, who, like I said, pretty much the UK boss at eBay, I think is VP, has come out and said there's a strong entrepreneurial streak in small UK business, and this is something that can be capitalized on. The businesses are very agile. They're able to redevelop, reconfigure, and respond to macroeconomic challenges at enormous speed. This provides them with an opportunity that a lot of the big guys cannot compete with. The bigger you are, the slower you move. And with the effect that Brexit had overnight, especially with the currency markets, making certain things more expensive to bring into the country, but also flipping that makes your products in this country cheaper for other people to buy. And that is the flip, which again, strong entrepreneurial minded small businesses can really capitalize on with cross-border trade. Your products got a lot cheaper to sell elsewhere, and that's what eBay love. eBay really want to push cross-border trade, and that's what they were talking about in this article. Hetrell was saying basically, yes, Brexit has had impacts on, you know, the economy, but as an entrepreneur, your job is to respond and make it a favorable one. And I mean, myself and Matt, when Brexit happened about 18 months ago now, was it? I can't even remember. We basically came out and went, it's great news. Yeah, yes, your products may now be more expensive to buy, but you've just opened them up to a whole new range of customers who now think your products are much cheaper than they were previously. So for the right businesses, again, that can reconfigure, redevelop very quickly, they could pivot and make a lot of money. And that is basically what Rob Petrell is saying. And I totally agree with him. You can only change, or you can only really, what's the phrase I'm looking for here? You should only really be worried about the things that you cannot change. And the difference is you can change these things. You can redesign your business. You can pivot slightly and turn what many have seen as a negative into a positive. And the guys that have done that are winning. That is basically the message there. Next up, Royal Mail staff set to strike for better pay and pension. This is an interesting story because I wrote this the day of the conference that I was setting off to. I said to Richard, right, the Royal Mail story is good to go. Publish it when you're ready. Richard said that he published it, and then literally about 10 minutes after, I said there came an update that, oh, there's been an injunction which meant that this strike is now not allowed to happen. So I was like, Richard, I'm so sorry. Can you stick an update out? But yeah, so the CWU had basically been approved to strike action on the 20. We get the exact date here. Oh, it's the 19th of October for 48 hours, taken into the 20th. However, that has now been blocked. So, yeah, basically London's High Court said that this was not allowed to take place. And it has now gone back to the CWU, which is like the union that Royal Mail is a part of, and is now going through more mediation to try and make sure that something gets resolved rather than going through strike action.
Well, you know, as a friend of mine who's from Belgium always says, and you know, it's strike season in Europe from September to June.
Oh, of course it is. Yeah, yeah.
Especially in Belgium and France.
Yeah. And if anyone's ever tried to fly into an airport in France when there's been a strike on, you'll know how fun that is. But yeah, so obviously Royal Mail were trying to be a little bit picky with their strike, try and pick a bit of a disruptive time. Wasn't the most disruptive time, you know, middle of October is not too bad, but obviously if nothing else happened, it was going to roll into Black Friday and Christmas.
However, must say, I mean, I want to turn this into a big discussion here. I must say that I'm always amazed with some of these strike things because I've seen here, maybe this is the U.S. version of it, or my U.S. living here in the U.S. for so long. I've seen some people do strikes here, and then all of a sudden, you know, they get basically kicked out, and especially something like mail service, so that can be easily automated over time, that is already on the brink of being wiped out by email. So these type of industries are just, you know, this is not a good time to, you got to come up with some solution. I know, you know, you got to find a worker solution, but One of the famous ones I think that I remember here in the U.S. was Caterpillar. You know, they went on strike for 2 years. Well, they didn't hire anybody; just fired them. You know, at the end of the day, you know, so it's one of those things where over time you have to know what you know. And I was surprised they'd been talking for a while, because I was kind of following this a bit, that they actually went to a strike. I thought they might be able to work something out, but hopefully they can now, because I think they were tasked with having to work something out by the court, right, by the end of the year, trying to come up with a solution to this. So
I think that's right. Yeah. So again, we'll see what they come up with. But again, I mean, I'm still a big, you know, I look at Royal Mail and I think, you know, with Amazon now looking to get more involved in logistics in terms of for other people, not just their own deliveries, it could very well be the end of something like Royal Mail. I mean, DPD, Hermes, they all do a fantastic job here. I know you've also got FedEx, UPS, and DHL over in America as well. I think it's going to come to a point where, and yes, Royal Mail is still largely cheaper for the small stuff. But, you know,
this is a good sign of like the Brexit discussion you just had, where big operations have a really hard time changing to the times, while little operations can move turn the boat a lot quicker. And I think this is one of the problems that we're going to see more of this, especially I think in Europe, where there's more unions prevalency as there is in the United States, where some of these people are going to get put under pressure, you know. But anyways,
I think like I said, for me, Amazon is the main contender here, because Amazon is a huge company which acts like a small company,
right?
And I think, you know, they very well could put Royal Mail out of business, or certainly impact their business heavily if they do go into a full logistics, you know, standalone business model. But we shall see. Next up, vinyl records selling well on eBay. This was again a bit of a magazine-y sort of news piece this week, and actually shows that it's almost a bit of nostalgia. And again, this obviously reports back to what eBay was traditionally very good at. It's the unique, the unusual, the antique stuff, the one-offs, that sort of thing. Vinyl records, again, for me,
I think I have like 6 or 7 of them, and start thinking they're like 30 years old. Maybe they're worth something.
Exactly, they probably are, and that's the thing. I mean, I just missed out on the vinyl sort of era. It was tapes and CDs and mini disc things when I was growing up. But I mean, and I have started seeing vinyls in supermarkets here now, and yeah, granted they are of very modern songs. I think Ed Sheeran's latest album had a vinyl, and Coldplay had a vinyl. I
think there's a promotional nostalgia to it currently. I've seen on the electronic side, I've seen actually people re-releasing, you know, vinyl players, you know, which
some of the big, I mean, very cheaply as well. So very cheap electronics inside.
Kind of interesting, and sort of the retro. You know, I guess everything old becomes new again at some point.
Absolutely, well, it's that life cycle, isn't it? Just to throw some numbers around quickly, UK in eBay UK, vinyl records were selling at a rate of 1 record every 30 seconds. Around 280,000 were bought in the last 3 months of 2016. And a report from Q3 2017 shows a record high in vinyl record sales. It now represents 14% of all physical album sales in the US. In the UK, vinyl record sales gained 53% on the previous year, and this marked a return to pre-90s sales of vinyl records. So again, this nostalgia is definitely coming back. For everyone who
maybe I should go look for a flip phone. Maybe flip phones will be back in style.
Clam style, coming back out. But yeah, that again just an interesting piece that was noted there from eBay. Curious. Again, everyone talks about downloads killing physical album sales. What it looks like the diehards are bringing the nostalgia back with vinyl. Interesting for sure. Now, Richard, you've got a piece about Etsy and their bulk edit tool.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of, you know, Etsy's been adding things to the platform. This is a bulk editing, and, you know, it's a very rudimentary implementation of bulk editing that they released last week. And you sit there and go like, wow, you mean they didn't have it before? You know, those of us who don't sell Etsy or are constantly there, you know, that are involved with the platform, some form of fashion, would probably a little bit surprised about it. And it just shows how maybe the previous management was really oblivious to seller functionality, you know, and more, you know, concerned about how green is our offices versus, and that's the reason why these changes are happening. And I actually read this morning that a couple investment funds are putting more money into Etsy, buying up their stock. So clearly, at least within the institutional investors, some of these small changes that Etsy has been doing, and it's been all a bunch of small changes, have actually seemed to be making a difference, at least as far as what they think is going to happen. So it's just another little add-on. I mean, it needs a lot of work. Somebody in the comment section brought up another service that offers Etsy. I brought up 6-bit in the story. You know, there's other people, third-party seller products out there that allow you to do bulk editing at a much better scale, to be honest. You have to pay for it. But if you sell a few things on Etsy and you don't want to spend, you know, anywhere from 10 to whatever it is, $30, $40 a month on a bulk editing tool for Etsy, then at least you now have the ability to do some rudimentary bulk editing, which includes prices, which includes adding to the front or the back end of the descriptions, as well as replacing information on descriptions. So it's you can't do a whole description change. Like, I mean, if you compare it to even the old eBay bulk editor, this is really basic. Okay, I mean, the old eBay editor from 2 years ago was significantly more advanced than this, but it's just steps in the right direction. And I think I don't have any. I still think I like Etsy as a company. I like what they try to do. You know, it's a unique marketplace, and I think that if they get their focus right on making their products, their platform better for sellers, you know, they are doing a few things that you know, like with the free shipping and stuff that some people don't like, but we'll talk about that here in a second. Anyways, in a different story. But you know, the reality is it's a kind of a niche platform, and it's, if you have products that sell that fit into that platform, I think you should need to be on Etsy. And obviously they're not going away. They're trying to be more, you know, whether they, maybe at this point they're not going to get sold. Maybe our original thought that by the end of the year they were going to be sold to somebody. I would be very surprised for them to do anything like this. I would have at this point in time, but maybe after the year's over, or whatever, or maybe they are going to turn it around on their own. So we'll see.
It's interesting because we have seen quite a nice bit of development from Etsy, like you said, with the bulk edit tool, and a number of other things that they've done recently, you know, with search. And yeah, so fair play to them. They're very much still alive and kicking. And
they made profit, you know, which is
which is a big one.
Which is, if you make money, that's always good, right?
Yeah, always helps. So on to the discussion.
Now we're getting into the discussion round. Not that we didn't have any discussions before.
I know, yeah. The news was pretty light. We could talk a little bit more about what was going on.
Yeah.
But the first point of discussion today is Amazon hosting the Marketplace Seller Summit for Australia. This is interesting.
Yeah, you know, another round, and you know, on the top of my head, November 13. Okay, on the top of my head, I couldn't remember when it was. So, Amazon is going in. You know, obviously, we reported earlier in the maybe in the last few weeks that Amazon had logistics warehouse that's opening up. We know. I mean, it's probably the worst kept secret that Amazon is moving into the Australian marketplace. So now they said they had 500 sellers already signed up previously to this, releasing the Seller Summit information. And I didn't check this morning, but I checked the other day after I wrote the article. The signups were already closed. In other words, whatever number they had was already exceeded. So I don't know if they're going to try to move to a larger room within the facility that they're doing it in, or what, or if this is just it, and those are just all they're going to do. You know, it shows the interest that people have in Australia with that. Obviously, most Australian sellers are not going to be used to how this system works. It's very different from eBay. If they come from eBay and you try to sell on Amazon, it's two different animals, you know. So there's a lot of stuff that they have to teach, and or at least I don't want to say teach, but maybe just show off what we could do. I found it interesting. It's only a half a day. You know, I would think something like that could have been a good full day, but maybe that's the expansion of it. Maybe they'll do a second half day to figure out, hey, let's see if we can fill a half a day. And if they fill a half day, maybe they do a second half day. Maybe that's what they're going to do, because it does seem like there was a lot of interest for it. And I can tell you from our stats that it was one of our better stories of the week, effectively, you know, that so people were reading it and are having interest in selling Amazon in Australia. And I was doing a little bit, you know, I was trying to do a little bit of research. There are some quirkinesses though to all of this I found. I was trying to find out exactly if there is a date yet set for when Amazon is going to go live. I can't envision this to be before December, before Christmas, you know. And the only stories I found, and I found them fascinating. Now remember, again, I'm this political less government, less taxes guy. Okay, it was stories about how is Amazon going to pay the fair share of taxes in Australia, because obviously in Europe they've been in Ireland and stayed away from paying quote unquote a fair share of taxes. And I'm thinking, you know, here in the United States, they're trying to find a second headquarters, and all the stories in the United States are, well, this city is providing all these incentives to Amazon to bring them here. So the Australians are already trying to figure out how to extract more money from Amazon, and the Americans are like, what can we do to bring the headquarters to
how can we save Amazon more money? Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating.
But I mean, it's like I said, you can see why states would do that. The amount of employment it would bring to the state would be huge, and also make it a desirable place to live for many people. Yeah. I find the Australia one very curious. Like I said, definitely no dates yet. Obviously, they said originally it would be September. We've passed September. They've since. Right, I'll give you a bit of an insight into where my latest news was coming from on this. On Wednesday, I was at eCommerce Show North in Manchester, and I met a good friend of ours, Alex from M2E Pro. He was exhibiting there. It's been a while since me and Alex have caught up. So we went and had a chat, and I sort of said, "Oh, Alex, you know what's been going on?" And he was like, "Amazon Australia." I was like, "What? It's not even live yet." And he was like, "No, but M2E Pro is an official partner with Amazon regarding the Australian marketplace. So we've been working very closely with them in terms of making the integration with Amazon work flawlessly with M2E Pro. For Magento 1, I hasten to add, not Magento 2. Very interesting. I'm not sure if I'm really supposed to be saying this, to be brutally honest. So I'll go very careful with what I was told. But he was basically saying how you know, a lot of people are getting very excited about the prospects of Amazon Australia. M2E Pro want to, or like I said, been working very closely with Amazon on that integration into Magento to make sure it all works as it should. And yeah, it was a curious one, because I sort of made the point. It's different because obviously we've spoken about Amazon buying Souk in the Middle East, and then talking about Korea and Singapore for opening marketplaces there. But for me, Australia it's like a Western country in the Far East, if that makes sense. They're a very forward-thinking, e-commerce friendly country. They get it. You know, eBay Australia is the 4th largest eBay marketplace in the world, behind .com, .co.uk, .de. And out of the 28 or 26 marketplaces that eBay has, Australia is the 4th largest. So eBay should be pretty worried that obviously now Amazon is going to come steamrolling into their back garden, where they've previously not had any major competition in terms of marketplaces. I think it's curious because obviously it offers a huge opportunity for Amazon right now. And we know that they've built a fulfillment center in South Melbourne, which again, very strategic location, huge, obviously. The population, while spread out in Australia, isn't that bad, because there's just a big bit in the middle where nobody lives. They're all sort of based around the edges. So it's very interesting to see what Amazon are going to do. And obviously there must have been some hiccups, because it's not like Amazon to miss a deadline. And also it's not like Amazon to not shout a little bit more about, you know, something as big as this. So like I said, I know something, it's definitely coming. They're definitely working on it, and they're working with strategic partners like M2E Pro in order to make the Amazon integration, Amazon Australia integration, a steady, sturdy, friendly thing to use. I'd be very interested to see what the Seller Summit has. But I would say, like you said about the demand, I heard something very similar. Like, there is a joint webinar going on, I believe, with M2E Pro and Amazon Australia next week, I think, or this week.
Maybe
places,
one of us participate and listen to what they have to say.
Well, places sold out very, very quickly.
Oh, wow.
So I'm not even sure if I can get in there.
Okay.
I will ask for sure. I'll see if Alex can get me in. But yeah, it was the demand for Amazon Australia seems to be huge. So yeah, eBay should probably be a little bit concerned.
Well, you know, the thing is, and I just pull up a map of Australia, which is, I mean, the first thing that pops up is the fact, you know, Amazon for the last few years has been really moving on the speedy delivery part. You know, in Europe, it's same-day delivery, next-day delivery. United States, it's 2-day delivery. And then you look at Amazon. I mean, so you look at Australia, you know, and you look at Melbourne, or you look at Sydney or Brisbane. Okay, I get you have that one little area there that's probably pretty populated, but that's where you'd start on. But, you know, how do you do speedy delivery to Darwin or Perth? You know,
Perth is. I'm just checking my little map here. I said Perth is a tricky one because that is literally right on the other side.
Yeah,
but you can see why they start with Melbourne, because they've obviously got Adelaide to the east. Sorry, Adelaide to the west, Canberra, Sydney to the west, Brisbane's a little further north.
Yeah.
So that's if someone said to me you had one place to put a fulfillment center in Australia, I'd stick it in Melbourne.
Yeah, because
that's going to service the most amount of people.
Yeah, yes, I mean, I would probably pick Sydney but then again, maybe Adelaide is big enough to be a factor in all of this, and quite frankly, New Zealand might be a factor too. Although you could service that from Sydney easily as well.
Yeah.
But you know, yeah, the speedy part is going to be the interesting part. You know, are they going to take this, which would be the eastern side of Australia? Are they going to say, okay, we're going to offer 1 or 2 day delivery there, and more like a casual, leisurely delivery to the rest of the country? That would not be what Amazon typically does, but you know, there's a logistics challenge here that you have to look at.
There is for sure. There is for sure. But I mean, it's not uncommon, because I know Matt, who's based down in Bristol, he's had same day delivery for well over a year now. I've only had same day delivery here for about 6 months. So they do. So it wouldn't be beyond possibility that they offered Melbourne, Adelaide, Canberra, Sydney, all maybe next day delivery, and then Brisbane and Perth 2 to 3 day delivery. Yeah. Remember that it's Amazon that sets the standard for delivery. Australia's never had this.
Yeah, and
that's, I think,
yeah,
you know, and there's no, you know, eBay can get away with 7 day deliveries and blah blah blah.
Yeah, and the only thing
Amazon which changed my expectations here in the UK.
Yeah, and what eBay has done in Australia is mostly has been pushing out toward a speedier shipping processing time versus an actual delivery time.
Dispatch time, not delivery time.
Yeah, so it's going to change, you know. Yeah, Alice Springs in the middle of Australia is probably not a hotbed right now.
It's probably a very hot bed, but hey. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's probably not a big population there for sure.
So they're not going to worry too much about that. But definitely the outside, you know, there's you know, and it's not like Perth is the biggest area either. I mean, they can probably do away with and having to worry about the original or having to include them into a speedy delivery initially. Mm-hmm. And then that might be part of the reason why they're still working on getting things done. You know, maybe it took time, you know. Yeah. Possibility that this whole thing with the VAT tax or whatever they were dealing with that might have put a little bit of a damp on it for a while till they figure out, okay, what are the Australians really going to do? Because Amazon is very tax savvy, you know, like most major, especially U.S. corporations. You know, if they, you know, that they just look at where can we save money and how can we do it the best way, and so that might have been what put them on hold too. And then there comes a point, I think, where you go get, if it comes too close to Christmas, you can say, okay, let's just move past that, because we're not going to just launch something brand new, you know, in the middle of the busiest season. That I'd be surprised. Maybe they will, but I'd be surprised if they did that, you know, because I believe holiday sales in Australia are still a holiday, even so it's middle of their summer. You know, so.
Yep, no, it's an interesting one. We'll have to wait and see what happens with Amazon Australia for sure.
Next one is Walmart. Is making Walmart is going to make it easier to return items. And they are the gist of the story is, but it's gonna really, our discussion is gonna go way beyond this now, because I actually sent you a link to a video this morning. The gist of the story is that Walmart is going to allow you to create a QR code on your phone and be able to take the product that you purchased online with the QR code and take it back to a Walmart store and have a speedy checkout. Now, those of us who, quote unquote, despise walking into Walmart, one of the reasons we despise walking into Walmart is because every time you look at that return desk, you can sit there a line of 10 and 20 people. And it's like, it's just, you know, returning something at Walmart is just a pain. So I think they know that. And I think by putting technology into it, they're going to start first with e-commerce, because they have the stores to do that with. And they're going to, so apparently going to implement this in all stores simultaneously. It's not going to be a test market. It's just going to be rolled out. And that's 4,500 plus stores in the US that you can all of a sudden take your product back for a return. Now, Best Buy and others have done this too, but one company that hasn't done anything on that scale before is Amazon, because Amazon had no physical stores. And so it seems to me, you know, that Walmart this year has really taken the gloves off to Amazon. Okay, that's not a stretch to say that. But it seems to me that returns is now becoming the next battleground. You know, if we go back 10 years or 15 years, it was free shipping. Amazon pushed free shipping. They would go, oh, what do you mean I have to offer free shipping? You know, it was free shipping if it was more than $100. You know, then it was free shipping was more than $75. Then it just eroded to the point where now it's free shipping on anything. You know, almost. You know, to that point. And you know how eBay, especially eBay sellers, reacted to this push. You know, and oh, what do you mean eBay is making me do this free shipping? We see and hear the same things now today on eBay and Etsy marketplaces, where the marketplaces realize in order to stay with the big guys, they're forcing the small businesses to have to adapt these same policies in order to stick with the e-commerce, be competitive in it. And I think what Walmart is doing now is they're pushing returns, something that Amazon doesn't really have the logistics ability yet to do that. But we have seen Amazon over the last few months. Obviously, the Whole Foods Market acquisition gives them some physical stores, although I'm not sure that those stores are really set up to deal with returns best. But the ones that are Kohl's, and they're doing a test with Kohl's, which has 1,100 stores at least throughout the United States. They're doing a test with in LA and Chicago with doing returns. And so now you have the two big guys fighting it out over returns. And that makes me wonder, how is this going to impact small businesses? Because guess what? The reason eBay is pushing this is because they're seeing Walmart and Amazon doing this. And that's going to be next year's big battle. It's going to be returns.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. It's I said Amazon obviously jumped the gun, as we've just spoken about delivery, whereas returns, yeah, it's sort of hassle free. You know, Amazon do make it easy, but it's not necessarily quick. And whilst on some items, like you say, Amazon will refund you before they've had the product back. You know, it's all well and good. They won't do that with all products for sure. But But it's interesting, like I said,
Walmart said they're going to do something like that as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Daniel Eckert, from the senior vice president for Walmart, basically said, we know that returning an item and waiting for a refund, especially for a product purchased online, isn't always seamless. So we've completely transformed the process for our customers, whether they're shopping in stores or at walmart.com. By leveraging our physical stores and the Walmart app, we're changing the returns game in ways that only Walmart can do. And that's very interesting, because if they can tie in their physical stores, that is an area which Amazon obviously cannot compete with without then having to partner with someone else, which, as we know, Amazon aren't overly fond of doing. They like to own the relationship with their customers.
But Kohl's is cheap enough to buy.
Exactly. That is very true. And we know that Amazon are not scared of an acquisition. In fact, they quite like them. So it's interesting. I totally agree. This could be the big battle for 2018, is the battle of the returns. Who can make returns easier? And like I said, I say it so often, is that convenience always wins. And if it comes to a point where, and that's why people buy on Amazon, is we know it's not often the cheapest place, but we know it can arrive sometimes same day here in the UK or next day. And if there's a problem with it, I can return it. I can usually take it to, somewhere nearby, a corner shop. They'll put a sticker on it and send it back. But if you could take it to a physical store and get a refund immediately, that's what Amazon is going to struggle to compete with.
And I think that's where it would take something. I mean, between Kohl's and Whole Foods, they would have to, if it's not an outright purchase of Kohl's, then it'd have to be an outright deal with Kohl's to do it on all their stores, which is a possibility. And yeah, the Whole Foods is a possibility to do returns. I mean, there's a way for Amazon. What I see, I see the two big guys now going head to head on all these things. And obviously, Walmart has been making inroads on e-commerce sales, and they
very much so.
And so what's going to happen is the smaller sellers are going to go, what do I have to do to compete? And the reality is, it's either going to be you have to offer free returns, which is a cost, or you have to sell on Amazon or on Walmart as a marketplace seller, which is a cost. And you almost have to figure out which is the lesser of the two evils in an odd way, because if returns becomes this big battlefield, and let's face it, I mean, Target hasn't made any huge moves in e-commerce, but they're working on stuff. They've done little things that we've highlighted on eSellerCafe. So that's another big chain here in the United States that can do things. There might be some grocery stores that could get into this act, especially on the food side of it, although people usually don't return foods. But there are other, people like Macy's, where they just hired Hal Lawton, who came from eBay, who understands, e-commerce. Is he going to make returns easier? Anything that does that is going to help, and it's going to put more pressure on smaller sellers to compete. And I think it's going to. I personally am a big believer that over the next 5 years, e-commerce will turn into a marketplace-driven business for small businesses. I think it's the death of the of running your own store is around the corner. And maybe someone like Shopify or BigCommerce that can maybe create a marketplace environment might work. But I really think that in the next 5 years, we're not going to see that much WooCommerce and Magento. We might still see the stores, but the really popular, or the really not popular, but the really successful ones, I think are going to be all marketplace driven. I think that's such an interesting point, because I'm so inclined to agree with you. In fact, to the point now where I say to anyone who is selling online, we're now almost at a point where you have to be selling on Amazon. Your products have to be on Amazon, because if they're not, you're missing out on that huge prime user base. And by me selling on Amazon, I pretty much mean by using FBA and letting Amazon do a lot. And I know for some products, some unsexy products, it's not viable due to size, weight, dimensions, whatever. But for a large majority of people,
FBA is a very reasonable way of, like I said, fulfilling orders. You know, the handling charges, the storage charges, the pick, pack, dispatch. It's very, you know, for the right product with the right margin, it's very reasonably priced. But it's also putting you in front of a very dedicated set of buyers who just will only buy from Amazon and will literally not buy from you if you don't have the little blue Prime logo. So I totally see where you're coming from. However, I would say I don't think it's going to be the death of websites. I would instead say it's going to be the difference between those who put the effort in to build a brand between those who just use a website as another channel. I think brands is where the direction that e-commerce is going. Brand loyalty has never been higher. And I mean, here in the UK, here in Manchester right now, I can think of 3 huge fashion brands which absolutely smashed it. All started off utilizing marketplaces purely for the audience. Boohoo, Misguided, Pretty Little Thing, they've all blown up due to their fantastic social marketing, social media marketing, as well as just their brand awareness everywhere. Great branding. And I think, you know, a large portion of I think, Misguided, they now have a store in the Westfield in Stratford. What the rent is, and the Westfield is a huge shopping centre in a nice part of London. And I think that's the thing is they're now so brand aware that they've got a brand name as Misguided, which people actively go to that store. It's like a flagship store in order to have that experience. Yes, they could still buy online, but they've built up the following. And the same with Pretty Little Thing. Again, they've come from relative obscurity. Now Kylie Jenner's wearing their clothes due to the fact that they are so good at branding and getting the brand out there, picking influencers. And I think this is the future that I see of e-commerce. Yes, you're going to have a marketplace, you know, channel. You're going to have to, you know, be utilizing marketplaces because of the audience. But you are then putting your eggs in someone else's basket, and that's a risky place to be. I would still say going forward 5-10 years, you need to have your own corner of the web, your own store, but in order to get people there, you need to create a brand that people are passionate about and people are going to love. And that's the challenge, and that's where marketing comes in.
Well, I think if you can get scale going, that's a possibility. But then you're going from maybe what I call the micro business to a small to medium sized business, but that has, you know, enough revenues to deal with that. One of the things that I see as a big challenge for small businesses and what is, I mean, we look at returns, which is the logistics side of it. We look at what the marketplace is doing, but then let's look at the tech side of it. We see eBay doing things with image search. So we're going to see all these kind of advanced searches, you know, Amazon with voice search, Target is getting into a voice search, Walmart is in voice search. You know, everybody's now doing all these alternate search, alternate buying methodologies or methods. And how do you do that out of your own run store? It becomes very difficult. You know, if you have a SaaS company like Shopify or BigCommerce that can bring in the tech to power all of that, that's fine. But how do you can't just go and buy $100 extension on Magento or WooCommerce or PrestaShop or whatever and say, okay, I'm going to do image search now. I just don't, because the amount of computing power required to do that is staggering. You know, maybe there's going to be some ways that somebody can bring an extension in that'll power through their computers. I don't know. You know, there's VR or augmented reality. Let's see. I mean, see what Alibaba is doing in China. You know, most of their stuff is sold through marketplaces today, through the marketplaces that they own. I see the, you know, I understand the problem with, okay, you're putting your eggs in somebody else's basket, but I don't know that you're going to be able to build something up from scratch unless you start with the marketplace like you just talked about.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
You know, and
it has to be a starting place, because I said this in my talk at the weekend, is that realistically, the website is the long-term game. You cannot build a website, list a product, and see a sale within 5 minutes. you can do that on eBay. You can do that on Amazon. And that's the difference. You need to utilize those marketplaces, make sure you obviously profit is going, and you are profitable, and then start reinvesting that money into website marketing and other marketing efforts in order to grow that brand. And like you said, obviously, as you grow, you become a medium-sized business. You have staff, and you can then start hiring marketing people and spending money on bloggers and influencers and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I totally agree. It's to the point where you have to go where the audience is, and the quickest way to market for most SMEs is the marketplaces, 100%.
To circle back to returns, one of the interesting aspects of returns in Walmart is, and I don't know if you have an opportunity to maybe take that link that I sent you and put it into the video below us. And,
I will update it. Yeah, I'll get that put in.
Because even so, it's a 10-year-old documentary that CNBC did here in the United States on Walmart, and it went through all the bad things about Walmart. How it displays small businesses, how it dealt with its employees, the anti-union impacts that how it had fought everything that was so bad. It discussed, but it also talked about some good things. But one of the aspects in there, and I believe it's in this video. If it's not in this video, then I must have seen it somewhere else. But still, this video is pretty interesting in the totality of it, is how ruthless Walmart is. They want to make money, and they really demand a lot from their suppliers. Most people don't even realize that Bentonville, Arkansas has basically, there's a bunch of offices around Walmart there, from Coca-Cola to Procter & Gamble to all these major companies that products that are sold through them, because they have to be there. I'm not sure if that's still true or not, but 10 years ago, they were talking about, you can't fly into Little Rock, Arkansas, which is the big city in Arkansas, nonstop from many cities, but to Bentonville, Arkansas, you can fly from most major cities because of the amount of traffic that and business travel that goes to Walmart. And so and they have these pitches. You have to go in there if you want to sell something at Walmart. You have to, and I'm sure they still do it today, where you have to make a pitch and then negotiate price with you. And one of the areas that they negotiate very harshly on is returns. They basically don't want to get stuck with returns. And somebody brought up, I think, in the comment section on our story, well, I like to see, about how they're going to deal with marketplace returns, because they did point out marketplace returns. And since they don't run an FBA style operation right now, how would they do that? That's a really good question. I think it's part of the reason why they didn't say we're going to do something with marketplace sellers yet. But regardless what the implementation is, the tradition at Walmart is, if you bring it back almost in whatever shape it is, they're going to take it back. So
I'll give you that.
So if you're going to sell something through the Walmart marketplace, you're going to be proud, and they're going to accept these type of and you're going to get into this return system of theirs. They're going to just take back whatever it is. And let's face it, I've seen stories from people on Amazon saying, "Well, I got back this. I mean, this wasn't hardly anything that I sold the guy or sold the customer," and so returns, the cost of returns for small businesses is going up. Period. End of story. And I think for everybody looking forward, looking into next year, you're going to have to really take a hard look at your product lines and say, what makes me money? What is a return problem? And what do I need to do to minimize returns? And if I do have returns, what do I need? Can I raise my prices to accommodate the cost of doing more returns? Or do I have to find another supplier or whatever else the case may be in order to find margin? I think those are going to be some very important aspects for next year for small businesses, because this returns battle is going to get big. And I think that's next year. We're going to see it even more than we just saw today. I think we're just seeing the beginning of it. This is right now, in my opinion, we're at the beginning, like where free shipping was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to pitch them.
I think
anyways, you got a couple minutes on Manchester on the show, just to
absolutely, yeah. I can give you a quick brief roundup of that. The show
we're so far over time now. What difference does
I know it doesn't even matter anymore, does it? Yeah, the show was good. Myself and Matt, Matt came up from Bristol. We went over to the show. It was at Event City just outside the Trafford Centre. It was good for the first one of its kind. I would say it was good. I've never been to that event space before. Lots of big brands were there. Sort of Barclays were there, World First were there, UK Fast, which is a huge hosting company here in the UK. M2E Pro were there, Magento were there. Again, it was different. It was kind of quirky. It had some nice little features. There was a big London like red double-decker bus in the middle, which was a bar, which was very interesting. And lots of talks. And yeah, there's some great talks going on. There was 3 smaller theatres and 1 larger keynote theatre. I didn't get to any of the talks myself. I did give one, however, on minimizing the risk of multi-channel e-commerce. I would say it was very well attended. I'll have to check with Matt. I think Matt took a couple of pictures from the crowd. I'll have to see if he's got any of those. But yeah, it was a curious one for me because the actual talks were given and everyone had wireless headphones on. So I was actually talking, the room was incredibly quiet, but obviously my microphone went through to everybody's headsets. It was kind of strange, like a silent disco.
Instantly translated through Google Pixel 2.
It may have been, I don't know. I was just talking English, that's all I know. Yeah, so we did that. We had a great catch up.
Might have been translating to London English.
Yeah, Bristolian to Cockney, who knows? Yeah. But we had a good catch up with a few of the guys there. Nice to meet up with some people I've not seen in a while. Obviously, like I said, Alex from M2E Pro. We had a good catch up with him about what the team there have been working on. He's in a big expansion drive at the minute, whole new, massively expanding his team that are based out in the Ukraine. We got talking with Intercultural Elements, who obviously do some translation stuff for e-commerce businesses. Caught up with Fletch from World First as well. Yeah, it was a good day. I would say it perhaps wasn't the busiest. It wasn't as busy as perhaps I would have liked it to be. But saying that, I think, like I said, I can't argue. Most of the seats were taken for my talk, so obviously there was the right kind of audience there.
You were what number? What, 50-something or 60-something on the list of reasons to attend?
I was. I think I can't remember now. I was the 62nd reason out of 150, which was very kind. But yeah, so I mean, and I was chatting to one of the guys afterwards, and he said that I think my talk was one of the joint most attended of the day, which again I was very, very privileged to hear. So yeah, I enjoyed it. It's not often I've done speaking things. Obviously I've done webinars and podcasts loads, and I did one with Matt down at GS1 earlier this year, and this was the main one I did on my own. And then 3 days later I had to give a groom speech, which was, again, I had to make that up because I hadn't had time to prepare anything. So again,
let me tell you guys about multi-channel marketing.
Yeah, exactly. So guys, minimizing risk with multi-channel e-commerce. To see everyone in the crowd, like, what the hell are you doing?
Okay, I am marrying Laura, but maybe I'll convert and have more. That way, multi-channel. Never mind.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I really enjoyed the event. Again, like I said, I actually didn't catch up with Martin, who was the organizer of the event, director. Yeah. I saw him floating around, but he was very busy. I was supposed to vlog it, and I just didn't. John Hayes was there as well, so me, John, and Matt had a good catch up. We had a good chat about lots of things. Also met up with the guys.
One of the things I'm curious about the timing of this, and maybe this is why like you said, the attendance was a bit light at times.
Yeah,
it seemed to be very close to Christmas for me. I'm typically one that believes that when you do these type of shows, no matter what industry you're in, like for example with my e-commerce experience in automotive, our shows big shows are November and December, because those are the dead times for automotive. One is racing. No one races in December. Well, almost no one does. Yeah. So therefore you have the biggest racing show in December, and actually in Europe the biggest racing show is in January in Birmingham. So you do the off-season racing.
Makes perfect sense, and I think that is potentially one of the reasons, because again, I think about eCommerce Expo, that's September, and that was traditionally the last one of the year. The eCommerce Show North, this was their first year doing this. Maybe they pushed it too close to Christmas. The big ones like eCommerce Expo down in London is usually sort of April, May. IRX, Internet Retailing Expos, usually March, April. Again, it's after the rush of the returns period, January, and the sales period, January, February, get them out of the way, and then the sort of e-commerce conference season usually kicks off.
That would make sense to me, that time frame.
Yes,
you know, before you get
I
the
agree.
summertime, before people go, okay, I'm going on vacation in Spain or whatever. You know,
That's the thing. You know, the summer months are difficult, July and August, because people
yeah.
tend to go on holiday. The schools are off, and so for me, yeah, like you say, I totally agree. March, April, May, I would say would usually be your key months for any sort of e-commerce business expo.
Maybe they'll do a change for next year into those.
Maybe that's one of the things we'll see. I also think, and this is something which is, I think I've mentioned to you, Richard. In America, it's much more accepted that you pay to go to these sorts of events. This event was free for the public, or sellers, and the exhibitors obviously had to pay for their stands there. My issue with that, and I totally get it, is that if obviously you want to lower the barrier to entry so more people sign up. However, if there's no perceived value to the ticket price, if something crops up on an email or on a phone call, you're much more likely to disregard the expo because it didn't cost you anything. You've not lost anything. There's no perceived value there. Whereas if you made everybody pay 20 quid, 50 quid for the ticket, I think there'd be much more retention of them actually turning up. And with the amount of people in the room, the speakers there and the exhibitors, I'm sure there was 20, 50 pounds worth of value to everybody who turned up.
Well, I would say, like, I'll go up to the shows that I'm familiar with, which is the racing show and the automotive show, the aftermarket show. I believe they are free because I've been getting these emails. They're free when you do early registration, but then when you do late registration, they charge you a nominal fee, and if you do an on-site registration, then it's a little higher fee again. So I think that if you push, you can push for getting people to sign up for it early through a free registration. And then it also has a value because the free registration now goes, oh, okay, well, wait a second, I can get it free because it'll be $50 or 50 a quid later in the year, So I think that there are ways to do that, and exactly. I get
the die-hard fans who are going to sign up early are always going to come.
Yeah,
it's the people who you need to convince nearer the time. And like I said, if you manage to sell them on it, sell them on the idea, like I said, for a nominal amount, I think you would see more people turn up. And
also I think travel packages would help it to some extent, because especially if it's a 2-day show, you want to keep people there for the night. So you do something. Hey, here's a travel package. We have a deal with these hotels, stuff like that. I know that's what. Granted, these two shows I'm talking about are very large.
Catalyst do it. The Channel Advisor Catalyst event, they've done it. Whenever they've done 2-day shows, they usually partner with the hotel and offer a room discount. I know the conference I went to out in Thailand did the same thing with the Hilton there. You got a discounted room. So again, makes sense. I think it has a lot of promise for their first event to say they've not got a brand name. They're not proven in the space yet. I'd say it was a success.
They only announced this 3 months ago.
No, they've been working on it for about a year, but you didn't really see any major marketing to it until about 4 or 5 months ago. But it's one of those. I would like to see them do it again. I will probably reach out to Martin in the next few weeks, or maybe after Christmas, and just sort of say, here's my thoughts for what it's worth, let's see what their plans are to take it forward and hopefully make it bigger and better. But I said I still thought it was a good event. I would. Cool. We'll see where it goes for sure.
And with that, we have killed 1 hour and 4 minutes.
Absolutely. Where's Matt when you need him? We're terrible at timekeeping.
Yeah, we are. So.
But with that said, thank you so much for joining us on this news roundup. To give you a quick recap of everything that we covered today. We talked about Amazon pressuring with Whole Foods competitive pricing, online businesses using Brexit as an opportunity, as said by Rob Hattrell at eBay. Royal Mail staff were set to strike, and then the High Court ruled that was not allowed and put an injunction against it. So we'll keep you up to date with any goings on there. Vinyl records selling really well on eBay UK and also in the US, as we announced as well, but really well in the UK. And a new bulk edit tool from Etsy is now available. And then myself and Richard got on to have a discussion about the Amazon hosting the Marketplace Seller Summit in Australia We had a bit of a chat about that and some of the info that I gleaned from M2E Pro at the event last week that I was at. And then we got on to a really interesting debate about e-commerce returns from Walmart, what the future is for e-commerce. Is it going to be marketplaces purely for small businesses? As it looks like 2018 is going to be the battle for returns between Walmart and Amazon and anyone else who wants to throw their hat into the ring. And then we finish off with a quick chat about eCommerce Show North. And like I said, this week I will try and put something together on eCommerce Show North to give you a bit of a rundown of what went on there, what to expect.
Cool.
And yeah, with that said, that's pretty much everything that we've talked about this week. Is there any heads up of what we've got coming up this week, Richard?
No, because every time I've done a heads up, something came up and I didn't get it done. So I have this whole list of heads up things I want to do. I think I have a couple of interesting things too, and hopefully one of them I will get together. One might be actually about what we just talked about, the returns part, about how returns is going to impact small businesses, things like that. One of the things I do want to try to get done this week is a holiday calendar for the US and UK for shipping. Yes. I need to get that done.
Very cool. Very cool. So with that said, we'll let you carry on with the rest of your day wherever you are in the world. Like I said, if you have any questions or comments about anything we've talked about, let us know in the comments section down below. And while you're there, why not hit that like button as well? And don't forget to subscribe. With that said, we'll see you next week, as always, at the same time, same place for more e-commerce news. With that said, I've been Dave, and I'll catch you next week.
Take care, everybody.
See you then. Bye.